Good evening and welcome to the May 9th, 2022 Town of Poughkeepsie Zoning Board of Appeals. We would all just rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so this meeting of the zoning board is hybrid. You can welcome to attend in person or by Zoom or by phone. So let's see. Diane, are you here? You can unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry.
Unmute yourself and tell me you're here.
I'm here.
Okay. Tony G.
Here.
Okay, I'm here. Art.
Yeah, here.
Larry.
Here.
Good. Christine.
Here.
Phyllis.
Here.
Tony S.
Here.
And Simona. Okay, I see that Simona's absent. It appears that we have a full constituency of the board, and so unless someone recuses, no alternate will be voting. For those of you unfamiliar with the process here at the Zoning Board of Appeals, each applicant comes up and is sworn and describes what their application is. We may ask questions. The public is encouraged to come up and make any comments that they like. When all that's done, we'll close the record on that case and move to the next one on the agenda. At the end of the agenda, the hearings are closed. We may take a short break or we may not, and then we'll deliberate on each of the applications and come to a decision. You can either stay till the end or you can call the zoning administrator in the morning. I think tonight might be short enough so those people can stay if they like. So that brings us to the first item on the agenda, Stewart Shops. I'm told that the applicant has withdrawn their application, so we're taking that off the agenda. Next on the agenda, number 2, is Diamond Storage, 1998 South Road. Is there anyone here for that application?
Good evening, Chairman. Jennifer Gray from the law firm of Keen and Bean here on behalf of the applicant. I'm also joined tonight by Chris Lapine from Labella, the project engineer, and also the applicants themselves, Jason Summer and Aaron Summer. So we're here tonight regarding the construction.
Jennifer, hello, excuse me. I just have to swear you in.
Each of you would just be sworn in again.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we are here tonight regarding the construction of a new climate-controlled self-storage facility at property located at 1998 South Road, otherwise known as Route 9. As you know, we've been before you before. We've made several revisions to the plans since submitting late last year in response to feedback that we've received from the town, from the planning board, the zoning board, town staff and its consultants, as well as county planning. We were last before the board in February to review and discuss an alternative plan, which incorporated a step back to the 4th floor of the self-storage facility that is being proposed. Since February, we've continued coordination with town staff and other agencies, including the fire department. And that did result in some further revisions to the plan. So we're here tonight to discuss those revisions with you, as well as the resulting variances. Based on this revised plan that's before you tonight, the project requires 4 variances. 2 are related to height, 1 for feet and 1 for stories. So where 55 feet is the maximum height allowed in this district, 45 is the maximum. We're proposing 55 feet at its highest point, so a 10-foot variance. Likewise, for stories, where 3 stories are permitted in the district, we're proposing 4 on a portion of the building, so a 1-story variance is needed. And then we're also asking for parking and lot coverage variances as well. For parking, due to the square footage of the building, which is about 95,000 square feet and change, we require 45 parking spaces, which is well in excess of what a self-storage facility would need. We're proposing 9 parking spaces with 2 loading spaces, resulting in a 36 space variance. And then for lot coverage, 25% is the maximum. We're proposing 29%, requiring a 4% variance. So as noted in the staff comments dated May 6th, which we have a copy of here. Last month, we did receive a secret negative declaration from the planning board as lead agency. So we are here tonight for a public hearing on these variances and hopefully receipt of approval for the variances. For the reasons set forth in our various submissions, we believe that when the balancing test is applied, that the benefit to the applicant here with respect to the development of the self-storage facility far outweighs any possible detriment to the neighborhood. As noted in the staff comments too, this, as everyone recognizes, this is an oddly shaped lot. So it has this triangular shaped building envelope, which makes it a little bit tricky to develop. But we think that we've balanced the comments from the town with the need for the applicant to have an economically viable project. So we're here tonight to review the plans with you. Chris Lapine can walk you through the changes to the plans. And of course, we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have or the public may have.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
As Jennifer indicated, we did make some modifications to the configuration of the building as a result of some of the, shall we say, inefficiencies associated with having the multi-story setback between the 3 and 4. We slightly increased the square footage of the overall building, but we didn't increase the square footage of the available units. That area is lost between the additional elevator space that's dedicated to the 3-story and 4-story and the transitional walls as we go along the interface of the 4-story and the 3-story. Additionally, we had some great dialogue with the fire department, and we had to make some overall modifications to our site plan based upon the 3-story and 4-story differential. And we need to have 2 fire access routes, and one being in the rear of the facility and one being in the front of the facility. As a result, we've ended up with this a little bit of almost like if anybody's ever played the game Tetra, it looks like almost like a Tetra game here in terms of the configuration of the rear of the storage facility. But that's basically so that we can meet the intent of the fire code as it relates to the 4-story and also for the 3-story in the front. We tried to emphasize in the manner in which we laid this out where we wouldn't increase the overall imperviousness from the existing site to the current site. And we were able to come slightly under what's existing out there. As you're aware, the town planning board advocated for the elimination of the egress on the northbound side, which we did. And we were hoping to create that opportunity to provide landscaping along the entire frontage, but the fire department needed a 150-foot fire lane between this point where I'm at here and the intersection of this access drive here. So that eliminated some of the opportunity to provide the additional landscaping, but we feel with the area we have, it certainly provides the screening, at least along this 3-story portion, when you're looking southbound from the intersection of Old Post Road and Route 9 at the site. Some of the additional changes that we also had the opportunity to do here was in terms of the additional landscaping, which let me turn to the next sheet here just so I can show everybody what we're referring to. We talked about it in February, but we incorporated some additional landscaping here. We also threw some trees in over here because there was some concerns about as you're going northbound, you kind of hit that little peak if you could provide some additional landscaping. That's what we did in this particular area. We fully screened the eastern portion of the property as well, as the planning board had a concern about the potential for future development to the rear of us. So I think all in all, we did our best to provide the additional screening, taking into account that you need to provide areas for the trees to mature within this footprint. As it relates to the parking, I think Jennifer indicated to you that we do require a parking variance, and what we did in the submittal that was made to you, and I want to go to the last page of that submittal. Hold on one second. It's very interesting because we walked through this with the planning board. The applicant did some parking analysis at a few of their existing sites that they have, and compared it to the overall square footage of their buildings. And they have a facility in Fayetteville, Georgia, 107,000 square feet, obviously larger than ours. They have 6 parking spaces. Schenectady, New York, 105,000 square feet. They have 11 parking spaces. Marietta, Georgia, 104,000 square feet, 9 spaces. Portland, Maine, 90,000 square feet, 6 spaces. We're here in Poughkeepsie, New York at 95,000, and they're proposing 9 spaces. It should be known that out of all of these units here between Fayetteville and Portland, Maine, we have less total units within the building that will be available. So our 9 spaces, from a standpoint of parking spaces to units, would be the greatest amount of parking spaces they have per unit at any of their facilities. They took it a step further and did a daily count on the number of parking spaces at a few of their facilities, number of visitors at their facilities, just to give you a sense of during their hours of operation between the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Here's what their total car counts were for March. As you can see, it fluctuated anywhere from, we went as low as 8 up to 35 cars in the course of the day. That averaged 15 total cars or 16 cars over a course of 10 hours of operation. They then did it at another facility in Georgia, and they averaged a total of 13 cars on a weekday, 17 cars on a weekend. And once again, there was no more than 5 cars on their property at any one point in time during all these parking investigations that were performed. So, and I think I just want to reiterate what we said at some of our earlier meetings. We feel the parking here is more than what's justified. And I think from the applicant's perspective, if they actually felt more parking would be necessary for the success of their business, they would certainly propose it. The parking that they're proposing for this particular scenario is one of their greatest per unit. And I just wanted to make you guys aware of that, as that was a supplement to our previous zoning analysis for this site. Aaron and Jason, would you guys like to walk through the renderings?
Sure, happy to. Hello, everyone. I can walk you through the rendering, but the key component to see is the front. And we've never done this before, stepped back in the front to really showcase. So when you're driving down, you're driving north or south on South Road, it appears to be a 3-story building. You won't be able to see the 4th-story building from the road elevation. And we're very proud of that. We feel like we listened to you folks. We listened to staff, and we listened to the planning board. And that's what we promised we'd do. So we really think we're going to have a beautiful product here. It's going to be something worth looking at. And again, it's not going to appear as a 4-story building. It's going to appear from the road as a 3-story building. Did I do okay, Chris, or no?
Yeah, you did. And one important thing to take a look at is here in the rear of this facility here. If you actually look at this is what you're looking at as you're coming. This is the southbound elevation we were just showing, but you're actually not going to see any of the rear of this building here because it's going to be obstructed by this facade, which is shown here on the rendering, right here. So this is everything in the rear that's not going to be visible from Route 9, but if you were actually walking in the back of the site, that's what you would see. So I'm going to turn it back to Jennifer and let her conclude our presentation, and then we would open it up to questions from the board.
Yeah, so I would take any questions that the board may have, or if the board sees fit to open it up to the public, we're happy to answer any questions that members of the public may have as well.
No, you actually adequately addressed my concerns about the parking, but Christine, do you have any questions?
No, no questions.
Art?
No, I'm good. One question, the loading dock, the unloading dock, is that past the parking area? In that little
Yes.
spur before the hash mark? Okay,
Here's the loading area right here.
so that's the only place that people will be unloading. You won't see that?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Tony?
No questions.
Phyllis?
No question.
Diane?
The loading dock is one car or one truck width?
Yes.
Okay. No questions.
Tony S.
No questions.
Larry, I'm sorry, Larry?
Are any of the parking spots handicapped?
Yes, there are. The first one closest to the building is ADA accessible.
Okay, that's all I have.
Side right here.
Okay.
I could blow it up. Right here.
Okay,
All right, anything else?
no.
Okay. Anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application? I don't see anyone in the audience. If there's anyone else on Zoom or on phone, if you could if you could undo your screen. Stop sharing. Thanks.
Not seeing anybody with a raised hand or signaling that they would like to speak.
All right, then I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And again, you can stay or check with the zoning administrator in the morning.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Number 3 has previously been adjourned. Number 4 is Verizon Wireless Small Cell Wireless Communications Facility. There was a request today to adjourn it to next month so they could respond adequately to some questions our expert had. But if there's anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application. Okay, one at a time, and I'm going to ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
What's your name? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do. I'm not going to go over everything I said the last time I was here. But I do want to.
My mistake. I'm sorry. I didn't turn the
Microphone.
and now it's on. So
Okay.
if you can speak into the microphone, everyone will be able to hear you at home too.
I wanted to reiterate a couple of things, and I wanted to point out something that I didn't mention last time, which is based on the wealth of research that goes back to the 1970s about the health effects of 2G, 3G, and 4G, 5G is much more powerful. And so there are even more health concerns associated with this over and above the previous power associated with these types of technology. We're talking about an assault on all organ systems, including neurological, cardiovascular, digestive. And really the question, and of course, cancer is usually thrown into the mix anyway, but it's been shown that there is a connection with cancer. And so the concern that I have is these conditions are so widespread in the public that how would you know that somebody who is sick with this condition is being made sick because of this radiation? And that's what is so insidious about this really poorly thought out, poorly researched, poorly tested, primitive technology. And I know you're probably thinking, how could it be primitive? This is the state of the art. But if it was truly the state of the art, people wouldn't be getting sick. And that's really the point. I don't see anywhere where Verizon is any way taking responsibility for this. I mean, if people get sick and they want to leave, or if they're concerned that their property values have tanked 30%, is Verizon going to give them the compensation for that loss of value? Are they going to pay fair market value if they want to leave and pay for relocation? No, they're not. And since Verizon is shielded from liability, do you really think people, once they realize what's going on, is going to settle for not making a stink about this? Who are they going to go after? They're going to go after the town that allowed it. So I think you guys have to think really long and hard about what kinds of protection that needs to be put in place, and find out if Verizon is willing to pay for those protections. There are devices that can be used, and this should be researched. This should be taken into account. I will also remind you that recently there was the U.S. court, a DC Court of Appeals against the FCC, which proved that the FCC was arbitrary and capricious with their guidelines, that their regulatory information is 25 years out of date. So clearly there's already some information on record that shows that there's a problem with this technology, and the people who are supposed to be regulating this for our protection aren't doing their job. This whole thing could blow up in everybody's face. And I think you should keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do note there's a couple people on the Zoom that have their hands raised. We will get to you, but we're just getting through the people in the audience first. No, I'm sorry. Just getting
Yeah,
through
come
the
on.
people. in the
Just state your
audience
name.
Alice Castellano.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your
I
knowledge?
do.
I can pass those out for you if you'd like. Okay.
First, I wanted to ask if you have a record of the frequencies you're planning to put on the tower.
The information's in the packet, which we have and that you have available to you as well.
Can I get one?
It's online.
Okay, you'll have to tell me where to get it.
Okay, you can call the zoning office and they can make it available to you as well.
All right, thank you. What is it going to look like? Is it going to be like the flagpole thing outside? Or is it going to have the different antennas hung on it?
Interestingly enough, because the applicant hasn't come here to describe their application, not really clear. That's why it may be premature for all your comments, but in the packet, it describes a small cell tower on a pole.
Whatever that is. I mean, whatever it looks like.
It's a 40-foot pole with a canister on top.
With a what?
Canister, you know, like.
Oh, that single canister, so that, okay. Okay, I have a meter that I use to check things. It's a good quality one, and I checked at Home Depot's parking lot, and it was an average of 25 microwatts per meter squared. That my meter reads microwatts per meter squared. So their parking lot was 25 approximately. And in the Chipotle's parking lot, the average was 50 microwatts per meter squared. So it's not bad right now. And I also had full 4 bars of cell reception, so that's not an issue, you know, even with the low power there. In your parking lot here, I measured 5,000 microwatts per meter squared average, and the peak volts per meter was maxing out my meter. And in the building here, it's attenuated to about 250 microwatts per meter squared. So you can see what, you know, what they, on that, the chart I handed out, you can see some of the effects that they've found at the different levels. And I just want you to hear what we have here, because I just want to point out the reviews. Have it worse than people that just visit briefly. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Hi, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do. What I'd like to say is interesting. Alice actually took readings at 10-50 or in that area, Winslow Gate Road. I myself went out there and I spoke to a number of people that were in the area. And I also took readings. What Alice does not know is that the bioinitiative.org includes thousands of peer-reviewed independent studies, international and domestic, that advise that there not be any more than 5 microwatts per meter squared. Alice, what did you find in the? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so there should be no more than 5, according to what's supposedly healthy. Here in Poughkeepsie, I've measured more than 2,000 microwatts per meter squared in certain areas on Raymond Avenue. That's where we're going to have added signal, added frequency of 3,700 megahertz. What we don't understand now is what happens when you have converging levels. There were people around Winslow Gate Road that said, you know, I have a problem in a certain area of Poughkeepsie. It happened to be near the police emergency antennas. She said she couldn't get signal there. Her calls dropped over and over again. So what you have is a town that's not understanding convergence. I don't understand it either, but there are experts who do understand that. And if we keep adding, what are we doing? This is not just a problem for the body, but it's a problem for communications. And I don't think our PE is looking at that particular area. So I also understood Jim Nelson, who's not here tonight. He mentioned that we're going to create a noise ordinance for music, to allow for music, which is great for the businesses over in that new area. So did you know that our zoning law, it does account for how we can modify our zoning law for music, for noise, and permit it there? Well, the interesting fact is that the telecommunications industry calls its emissions noise when they talk about interfering frequencies. So why can't we regulate this unwanted or excess noise as we would music? So he's going to be looking at that and permitting music. So, I'm hoping that we can actually maybe look at those ordinances
Okay,
and
if you could
say,
wrap it up.
wow. Yeah. So they actually call it EMC. It's called electromagnetic compatibility. And what I have here is the federal law-based analysis of the zoning law of the town of Woodstock. It's 45 pages. I'd like to give this to, I printed it out for you, Mike. I'm going to give this to you. And if the board wants to look at where the radiation falls from the typical tower, it's between 50 meters and 300 meters, or 146 meters, 146 feet to 1,000 feet. And all those businesses are within that area, are within that range.
Sonia,
So
and
look
then-
at that.
Yep,
Is that
thank you.
beautiful? And wait, Sonia, this too. This is what shows you, our
Just so you're
measurements.
clear that we don't write the zoning code.
No, but I know Mike works very closely with the town board and all the boards who converge and discuss what kinds of zoning might be entertained, and then, brings it all together, hopefully, in a meaningful way. And man, I gave you guys the answers to the test, and there are several towns, as I mentioned to Jay and Mike, that have instituted protective ordinances. And hey, we can adopt some of those, and it's nice they've already done it for us, so to speak. and all we have to do is, mesh it in. So I want to be helpful. Not that, I'm an engineer or anything, but it's already been done. We don't have to recreate the wheel here. So
thank you.
thank you so much for being here and listening and having open minds about this, even though we can't see this stuff at all. We can't see it. Some of us can feel it, but we can't see it. So thank you.
Anyone else?
We have two people on Zoom. Jean Donite, maybe? Is that right? Do you want to unmute yourself,
Yes,
Jean?
I'm here.
There you go.
Hi.
Yep.
Jean, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
So I wanted to say that, I'm wanting to give my voice to this issue of radiation, because radiation exposure has long been a concern for public health policymakers and researchers. And starting with the introduction of radar during World War II, exposure to the radio frequency radiation has increased exponentially up to where we are today. And so I'm concerned that this tower that's being built is going to be 5G, or as we said, that we have to know what the megahertz is of this tower. But I just wanted to say that information about this has been suppressed for so long now, and many people are not even aware of the clear dangers to their health that exist, and for humans and animals, because we're all bioelectrical beings and we're sensitive to all these frequencies. So we have to be really careful. And I know we have all kinds of cell phones and everything, but how many megahertz do we really need? So we have to really research this and see what's going to be effective, but also helpful for all of us in the town of Poughkeepsie now. And we need to ask, why is it necessary to have more and more towers built? Because they are being built all over, and especially in areas which people are very close together, like in this shopping mall. And also the fact that the regulators of these frequencies are exempt from covering radiation damage claims. So I was looking at this biometrics 212, and it's actually Bio Initiatives 212, and it had an update from 2014 to 2017, and some of the conclusions showed that more than 800 studies report abnormal gene transcription, genotoxicity, I guess, single and double DNA damage, and cancers, other serious diseases, and breakdowns of the immune system, all from this radio frequency radiation. So we just have to be careful about this. And I was,
If you could wrap it up.
yes, I was glad that the Poughkeepsie Zoning Board has said that it will write a new code over the next 2 months. And we need a new town ordinance that will protect the citizens better. So I just ask that you please take this seriously and make sure that it is done for the good of all of us in the town of Poughkeepsie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And there's Carla. Carla, you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Carla. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
All right, what would you like to say?
I would just like to say, with May being Mental Health Awareness Month, I would like to express how radio frequency waves affect the brain and how they ultimately dictate our behavior. The proposal for a new 5G tower is detrimental to the health and life of our community, and I believe it should be rejected. The brain is understood to be the most sensitive target for microwave radiation, which would encompass dysfunction and structural damage. Symptoms would include fatigue, headache, weakness, memory loss, irritability, restlessness, and irregular heart rate. This is from an overtaxed and exhausted central nervous system. Studies also suggest that mitochondria-related neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's. Long-term microwave radiation leads to significant damage to mitochondria in the brain, no matter the dosage. The result is a downward spiral of chemical activity in energy metabolism and in functions. On a human level, this winds up being a person who is not functioning at an optimal level, a person who may be frustrated at physically feeling subpar, someone who wants to do more and can't. What if this was you? What if this was your family member? On a human level, this winds up being a person who is behaviorally not uniquely themselves, a person who feels physical symptoms and manages to only get vague diagnoses from doctors. Again, what if this was you? How frustrating that would be. What if this was your family member? Please reject this proposal. I believe our human potential is being subdued and exploited. Our quality of life is being suppressed and manipulated. Please keep the community's well-being in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm not seeing anyone else. All right. Based upon the request of the applicant, I'm going to move to adjourn this to our June 13th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. That brings us to item number 5 on the agenda. Brian Burke, 13 Vandewater Avenue. State your name.
Brian Burke.
Mr. Burke, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Okay, why don't you describe your application?
Well, what I'm looking to do in the previous year is to build a one single family home at 13 Vandewater Avenue. I did receive the variance from the board previously. Unfortunately, I didn't have a buyer. And now I do have a young family, Michael and Dorothy Bennett, who are extremely interested in the property and the proposed home that we choose to build there. So that's what I'm looking for tonight, is just an extension. I finally have a buyer for the property, and hope everything goes smooth.
Okay, and since you last came here and it was approved, has anything changed?
Nothing's changed.
Okay, then I don't have any questions. Christine?
No questions.
Art?
No question.
Tony?
No.
Phyllis?
No question.
Diane?
No questions.
Larry?
No questions.
Tony, yes.
No questions.
All right, anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application? I will tell you that we did receive a letter from a neighbor that will be included in the record.
The only thing I do want to say is the respective buyer is looking for a basement. Nothing's going to change as far as the structure other than a basement putting in.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
what
that
I will
doesn't-
deal with that with the building department.
I don't see anyone interested in commenting on this, so I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, that motion carries. You can either wait or call in the morning. Okay. That brings us to item number 6, Lauren Pasante, 186 Wilbur Boulevard. Is there anyone there for that application?
Hi, yes, I'm here. This is Lauren, and I'm also here with my father, Paul Pasante.
Hi,
Okay.
Lauren and Paul, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes,
All right, why don't you describe your application?
I'm gonna have my dad describe it.
We were putting in a above ground pool. The crew was here to install it, and there's a contour of the backyard where it was getting cut into the hill, a hill. At that time, he suggested maybe we didn't go too far into the hill, and so it actually we did walk over to the neighbor on that side, and she had no problem with it. There is a 6-foot privacy fence in between. Instead of a 15-foot setback on the left sideline, there's a 10-foot setback. And it is an above ground pool, and it does have a privacy fence. It's just that the contour of the land sort of scared us a little bit and backed us off the way it would look. Let's see. Basically, that's our story.
Okay.
That is what happened. It ended up 5 foot too close to the line.
All right, and are you going to be putting a deck on it?
Yes, the building permit was already applied for, but it's on the opposite side. I believe it's 29 feet from any line. The closest line would be 29 feet from the deck.
Okay, and how'd you come in front of us? How'd you figure out that you needed a variance?
I believe that there's a 15-foot setback rule, and we had 10.
Well, that's why you need one. I want to know why you figured out you needed one. How that happened.
Well, we do need a CO for it. I just figured that they were going to measure for the CO and see that it was 10 feet, and we would be in front of you later on.
So you knew about it before you built the pool?
Oh, no, we knew about it we knew about the 5 feet after the pool was being put up. But I knew about the rule with the 15-foot setback, and I just did it before it was inspected.
Okay, all right. Christine?
No questions.
Art?
No questions.
Tony?
No question.
Phyllis?
No questions.
Diane?
No questions.
Larry?
No questions.
Tony, yes.
No questions.
Did I miss anybody? All right. Anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this? There's no one in the audience, and I don't see anyone in the Zoomscape. So I'll move to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And again, you can either wait for the end of the meeting or you can call in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
That brings us to number 7, storage space, storage cap Poughkeepsie on Violet Avenue. Is there someone here for that application?
Hi, Mike Ritchie from Costage Engineering. I also have with Store Space, Sabrina Pernalette, and the project architect, Gretchen Elton.
Hi, do you all swear or affirm that the testimony you are going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, why don't you describe your application?
Sure. If I could share my screen real quick. So we're here requesting relief from, we're requesting 3 variances. One being parking, where we now show 24, where 62 spaces are required. The other variance is for setback in a residential district. So the typical setback is 50 feet, but when abutting a residential district, it's 150, and we are 100 feet. And the third variance, which was added late in the process, was as a result of correspondence with Dutchess County. Originally, the plan was to subdivide all 3 parcels into one parcel. Unfortunately, and I don't know if you can see my cursor, this small triangle piece is actually within the city of Poughkeepsie. And unfortunately, the county would not allow us to combine the city parcel with the town parcel. So because of that, the property line will actually be the city town line. And where we previously had 57 feet, now it is 6.3 feet. We've worked with the town to the best of our ability to shift the building, but unfortunately, the further north we shifted, the further we encroach upon the front setback. So we're requesting those variances. We have met with the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board 3 times now, and we've worked with their staff. We've gone through and revised the plan a few times. We do believe the project that we are proposing will clean up the property, as currently there's a number of different businesses under different ownership and different management. And I think with store space coming in, they're going to clean up the property with 1 storage building. As a previous applicant stated for a different self-storage property, we believe the 24 spaces we have shown is more than maybe needed, but we were trying to get as close as we could to the code, which would require 62 spaces. If I could real quick, I'll show, just to give better context, a couple renderings. This first rendering would be from Violet Ave, showing the property. It's a 3-story building with no loading docks. It's at grade access. They're basically sliding doors.
Are you trying to share that?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Let me try again. Can you see that?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, so this is the view from Violet Ave. Where that van is located in this rendering is where the office would be, a 1st floor office. All access is through a series of sliding doors like you would see at a grocery store. There are no overhead doors, no loading doors, no direct vehicle access to the building. So it is a 3-story building with some windows over the office and on the opposite side of the building. But we believe the application we've presented to the town will clean up the property and provide a need that the town has with self-storage. We did submit to the county and they did come back. Sorry, trying to share that. They did come back and their comment was, that they actually feel that there's a possibility to reduce the parking further. And they asked the zoning board to consider some flexibility when taking action on this. We do have parking numbers similar to the previous applicant, and I can share those with you, but it's a similar conclusion that parking required for a project of this nature would be more in the area of 6 to 10. But again, we tried to show the parking on our site plan to stay as close as we could to the code. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board or the public may have.
Lisa, I have a question for our attorney.
Sure.
So the county suggested or made a suggestion about if reducing the spaces could increase the pervious space. Is there a way to accomplish that without re-advertising?
Absolutely, because what they're looking for is, the short answer is yes. I don't think that the notice provisions, if somebody were going to come and object to the application, I don't think it would be based on the number of parking spaces, whether it was 9 or 25. And in general, I think, reducing the number of spaces is probably environmentally friendly. The more interesting question I had was how to go about if the board were inclined to take up the county's response. And I think that, you can grant the variance if you want up to a certain number, and then say, but, anything less than a certain number has to come back to the board, this board for a further variance, if you wanted to do something like that. I don't know if that clarified or made more questions.
All right, so for the applicant, how many parking spots do you really want?
I think somewhere in the order of 10 spaces would be the maximum they would require.
Okay, and what would you do with the unused space?
I think we can pull up the plan and I think I can brainstorm on that real quickly. Sorry, 1 second. Trying to share my screen, that didn't work. So I would think, and let me know if you can see that. I would think the area that we would remove the parking spaces first would be in the eastern portion of the site. We may need to leave a small portion of pavement here because there is a door and maybe we'd actually reduce, say, 5 spaces. Similarly, on the south end of the building, we would quite easily remove these 2 spaces. There is an access in this corner of the building, so we would then most likely reduce parking spaces next to the handicap. We would leave the handicap spaces and kind of concentrate the spaces in that northwest corner and then leave a few spaces on the eastern corner. But I think that would be more than adequate, and we would return areas that were not used as parking back to lawn area.
Okay. All right, anything else you want to add?
Can I just ask him a quick, Mike, this is Mike Welty. Could you show the landscaping plan? Do you have that sheet
Yes.
ready?
Yep, 1 second.
Because in my report, I did note that there was fairly generous landscaping between the homes and the building, and I just
There
wanted
is. Thank you. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Can the board see this?
Yes.
Yes.
So, right, thank you, Mike, for stating that. So we have added landscaping and a berm. So we've maintained, sorry, trying to zoom in a little bit. Sorry about that. So we were able to maintain a couple large trees, 32 and 36 inches in diameter, along the residence south property line, as well as a small landscaped berm to the west of them, and then additional trees and plantings south of those properties, as well as a significant amount of landscaping planting in the island in front of the building. So we have made an attempt as best as possible to screen this from the residential neighbors.
And this and the lighting and the architecture. The lighting and the architecture are all things that the planning board is still finalizing with them if they go back. Just have
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Christine?
No questions.
Art?
Willing to talk about the signage? Yes, okay, never mind.
Tony?
The only question I have is all storage will be internal to the building, right? There'll be
That's
no,
correct. There will be no outdoor storage, vehicles, recreational vehicles, or anything else.
okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Phyllis?
So when I visited the site, there seemed like there were a lot of businesses at that site. And it looked as if there was storage down the hill behind where I think you're going to put your building. Are the 2 storage spaces connected?
So the current site, all the existing businesses will be demolished and the site will be cleaned up. So I believe you're correct. There is a small self-storage building. I think there's a couple auto repair shops. I think there's a truck and van rental. So Store Space is planning on buying it and removing the old uses and solely doing the self-storage, Store Space self-storage building.
And so will somebody, do they do a check for toxins on that land that you're going to build on?
We've previously done that as a part of Store Space's initial due diligence, environmental phase 1, prior to putting an offer on the property. I believe we submitted that to the town previously, but that came back clean and no remediation is required on this property.
Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
Diane?
No questions.
Larry?
I'm sorry, no questions.
Okay. Tony S.
No questions.
Anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application? Come on up. Why don't you state your name?
My name is Lori Moline.
Lori, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do. Anytime a new building goes up or a parking lot, the potential exists for antenna to be constructed on that site. And I'd like to make some comments about that. I'm sorry, I was on the wrong side of the building getting lost earlier. In 2015, the International EMF Scientist Appeal was submitted to the United Nations and the World Health Organization. It's been signed by 230 scientists from 41 nations, having published peer-reviewed research on the health effects of electromagnetic fields, or EMF. This appeal called for a moratorium on the use of 5G until harmful effects on living creatures and the environment could be fully investigated by scientists independent of the industry. I want to emphasize that all of these scientists have published peer-reviewed articles on the topic. I'm a biologist, and in case you're not familiar with how this kind of thing works, peer-reviewed studies are the gold standard in research, because what that means is that other scientists have reviewed the study for the way it was conducted and reported. They evaluate the study to be sure the author has used appropriate methods and that the data relayed to the reader is accurately obtained. Since the appeal was published, the world's largest $25 billion study conducted in the National Toxicology Program in the US shows statistically significant increases in the incidence of brain and heart cancer in animals exposed to cell phone radiation at levels below international guidelines. This supports human studies on cell phone radiation, brain tumor risk, as demonstrated by many other studies. Other health concerns from exposure to 5G radiation include increased cancer risk, cellular stress, increase in harmful free radicals, genetic damages, structural and functional changes of the reproductive system, learning and memory deficits, neurological disorders, and negative impacts on general well-being in humans. Damage goes well beyond the human race, as there is growing evidence of harmful effects to both plant and animal life. I invite you at your leisure to visit this website, and I'll leave that for you in a minute, that will show you how many antenna and towers are located close enough to where you live, sleep, and work, potentially affect your health. Most of the antenna listed are unlicensed and unregistered, which means the FCC does not regulate them or monitor them in any way. It's easy to imagine how this can get out of hand. I live out in the country in Millbrook, and I was shocked to see how many antenna were close enough to my home to negatively affect my health. I know that these issues are real because I get the pain in my head and ringing in my ears when I drive by the trooper barracks on Route 44, where they have a big, large tower near the road. I frequently shop in the area where the tower is proposed and where this is proposed, and I've never dropped a call or had trouble looking something up. So, and I've never spoken to anybody else has in these more built up areas either. So I hope that you will be a zoning board that opts to protect living things and your environment over erecting unnecessary 5G towers that pose real dangers to the health and well-being of the community, and watching out for where those things might pop up unexpectedly. Thank you.
All right, because I assume that you're really not commenting on this application, do you have that all written down?
I do. Would you like it?
We'll take that and it'll be part of the record on the application. I think that you really wanted to comment on.
If you want to see what's going on with your property, you can have one of those. I wrote it out for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to comment on this application? Why don't you state your name?
Name is Brian.
Brian, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes. So first, I'd like to add a comment similar to what she said. Anytime a new building goes up, the potential exists for an antenna to be constructed on that site. And I'd like to add some other comments on this. So first, a personal experience. I am a local resident, currently working in the area, both at home and in the office. And when I first worked at home on and off the last 2 years and upgraded some of my personal technology, I have experienced times of headaches, fatigue, and short-term memory loss, along with some of my peers. And I'd like to make it clear that I did not have any symptoms prior to this. And I was also lucky to have some help from someone taking readings on some of the common household items, such as routers, computers, and Bluetooth devices. And I was surprised that the radiation coming from these devices were higher than expected. So after going through these experiences and looking at the research and with these ladies earlier, and as a young adult hoping to raise a family in the area of Poughkeepsie, I hope we can come together and agree on allowing people to live up here without high frequencies of radiation. And this type of permanent construction will not just drive down the value of nearby properties, it can also deter people concerned affected by radiation, including like myself, from patronizing local businesses near Marist College, and especially going to Marist College for some of their sporting events or attending it. And also especially avoiding higher traffic areas like the Poughkeepsie side of the walkway over the Hudson, which is 1.5 miles away from Winslow Gate Road, the site of one of the towers. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else wants to comment on this application? I don't see anyone in the audience or the Zoom space. So I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Then that motion carries. All right, then I'm gonna
Thank you.
to adjourn for 5 minutes. Does anyone second that? Second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll come back at 7:06. Okay, it's 7:06. We're back in session. No one's in the audience. Let's see, are there any applicants?
Let's see, we got,
Richie's still on.
yeah, the two stores,
Jennifer Gray. Oh, that one's-
oh, wait, I don't remember who Steve was. Is Steve the house with the pool?
I think so.
Well, let's see. And anyway, Jennifer Gray was Diamond Storage, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, let's do something different. Let's start on that end when you're asking people. to read it.
Okay, all right.
She's got candy or nothing.
All right, okay. All right. Let's bring us to number 2, 1998 South Road. This is a request for a variance for a maximum height of 45 feet. I'm sorry, for 55 feet. Where only 45 feet is allowed. An extra story and 9 parking spots, requiring a variance of 36 spaces. Lot coverage of 29% where 25% is permitted. Any concerns about this one? There is a staff report.
I think they've gone out of their way pretty much to work with it.
Yeah, I think that we had some real concerns and they addressed those, and I think it's an improvement. I think they'll be better.
And some of the changes were based on, I guess, the fire department, they said, so.
Right.
It is what it is. That one.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
Phyllis, do you mind making this motion?
I have a candy too.
You have a what?
I'm sorry.
Nice try, Phyllis.
I'm sorry. I move that the board approve the request for a variance set forth in item number 2. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, the results of site visits by board members, and staff approval. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings set forth
There's a staff
in the
report.
staff report. So move.
All right, any discussion? Nope, okay. Then all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. 4 was adjourned. That brings us to number 5, 13 Vanderwater Avenue. This is just, we granted it before it expired during the pandemic. Any concerns about this one? All right, there doesn't indicate to be any changes. There was a comment from a neighbor, wrote a letter saying he objected to it. Okay, so Tony, mind making this motion?
I sure do. I move that the board approve the request for the area variance set forth in item number 5. The decision based on review of the application, testimony from the applicant, testimony offered in public hearing, and the results from site visits by board members. Approving the variance, the board adopts the findings set forth by the chair.
Well, in that regard, we can just adopt the prior findings, the previous findings. That's all right, Lisa?
Yes, I was just going to say, just re-adopt the prior findings.
Okay. I move to re-adopt the prior findings.
Second.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so you made a motion?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Use it? Okay. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That brings us to item number 6, 186 Wilbur Boulevard. This is an above ground pool that's too close to the side lot line and requires a 5-foot variance. Any concerns about this one? Did you get an opportunity to see the backyard? Okay, okay, so there's a big hill there. It's really, there's no place else to put it. And so there is a privacy fence there. So I think it's kind of
And the deck's going.
and the deck's going on the other side. Okay, any other concerns? Then let me make these findings. Whether an undesirable change would reduce in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties were created by the granting of variance, it's not appear to be any impact on the character of the neighborhood. There are similar sightings of above ground pools in the neighborhood. It's shielded by a fence and really not even noticeable at all. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Based upon the topography of the backyard, it's impossible to do this reasonably without an area variance. Whether the area variance is substantial, it's about 50% mathematically, but based upon the situation of the lot, I don't think it's practically substantial. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district. There's no evidence that this will have any impact on either the physical or the environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, it certainly was, but that's not a reason to deny the variance. And I would offer those. Art, do you mind making this motion?
I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item 6. This decision is based on our review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts its findings so set forth by the chair.
All right, any discussion on this one? Okay, then all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Who was the second on that, please?
Christine,
Thank you.
any opposed? Then that motion carries. That brings us to item number 7. So what do you want to do about the parking spots?
What did you say?
He said he would go down to 10. So Lisa, how, if we were to make a motion, what would it sound like? And you appear to be muted.
Just want to make sure they have access to the doors, right?
Yeah. You're either muted or mumbling.
No, muted. So let's
Oh,
try
okay.
it now.
Yeah.
So there are 62 spaces needed, so you can do a variance of 52 spaces if that's what you want to, and that would allow them to install only 10 spaces. And if they happen to use less of a variance, then that's okay. You can always do less than what was granted.
In other words, if they wanted to do 12 or 16 spaces when they come back to the planning board, that would be okay. They wouldn't have to come back to the ZBA.
Right. The only thing they would have to come back for is if they were going to do fewer than 10 spaces.
Okay. There is a staff report on this. Does anyone have any concerns? I think that taking all those businesses, and part of the one variance is just based upon where the city town line is. It's effectively, there's not that much impact there. Any other concerns? Anyone else? All right, then, Christine, do you mind making this one?
Yes, I will.
And if you want to just, we're going to grant the 52 parking spots.
I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item number 7. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings set forth in the staff report with 52 spaces.
Right, we're
52
going to
spaces
grant,
instead of 62.
right, we're going to grant
We'll grant it for
52.
We'll grant we will
52.
grant the variance for 52 spaces.
You're granting a variance request for 52 spaces as modified by the applicant. So
As modified by the applicant.
And tell me this, should we make a condition that that unused space is make sure it's permeable space? I don't know what else they would do with it, but I would hate for it to be used.
I mean, the planning board still has to get this for site plan, so
Oh, okay,
there's
you'll take care
no,
of it? All
yeah,
right.
there's really no chance it's
right.
not.
And they also, the planning board may want to do something with land bank parking spaces. So they may want to, not have trees there or something like that. So I'd rather that this board left that up to the planning board since it does have to go back to them.
All right, that's fine.
So moved.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Then that motion carries. Seeing no further business, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Then that motion carries.